Freshman multimedia students, I'm back, the left-handed genius, with another brilliant tutorial. Today we are going to be doing another portion of the principles of design, graphic design, the C.R.A.P poster. So we've already done proximity, and today we're going to talk about contrast. Rather than go through a Nearpod with you, I was going to go through it in video form. So that we can kind of be independent today during our 2-hour window. We might get to a third poster, in fact, but we'll see how it goes. So, getting started, we have contrast. Remember, C.R.A.P was contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So we're going to understand the importance of the design principle of contrast, and then we're going to apply that design to the posters. So again, we're going to do a paper version of the poster, and we're going to do a digital version of the poster. So, looking through the poster again, here's where we're talking about contrast. So what we're going to go over the fact that contrast does not just, it's not limited to like a shade. So it could be a contrast in color, it could be a contrast in tone and value, it could be a contrast in shape or size, and it could be direction as well. Now, having said what I just said, that's what we're talking about. So right here, we're talking about color. So if we were to write out the word contrast two different ways, and using color as the contrasting tool, this right here, we've got red with a blue outline, and we've got this as a blue fill, so that is contrasting with each other. This example right here is a size contrast. So this word contrast is larger in size than this word contrast. Right here in this example, it's a direction contrast. So same size letters, but this one is going horizontal, this one is going vertically. And lastly, we're contrasting with shapes and color, it looks like. So we've got the square shape with the white font, word contrast, and then we've got the white circle with a black font, same text size, so we're not so it's very clear what the contrast is. So there are many different ways to actually show contrast, is the point. Now, since you're not on your computers right now and this is a video, let's yell it out. Color is one of the 4 elements of contrast. Is that true or false? Please say true. It's right. It's true. Alright, what is contrast? Contrast is one of the most effective ways to add visual interest to your page, a striking interest that makes a reader want to look at the page and to create an organizational hierarchy among different elements. The important rule to remember is that for contrast to be effective, it must be strong. Don't be a wimp. So you got to really go for it. It's not really something that's subtle. So if 2 items are not exactly the same, then make them different. Really different. So, newsletter heading, it's nice and neat, nothing really attracts the eye. No one would really stop to read this thing. But, using contrast, we have our headlines now that are contrasting not only with color but also with size, and all of a sudden, not everybody, but you could walk by this and actually see some headings and see what it's about and actually maybe want to stop and read it depending on what it's about. Here is an example, a great example of 3 different ways of doing contrast. So in this bar right here, you've got the black rectangle, yellow fill, red outline. You've got the white rectangle, red fill, black outline. Then you've got the red rectangle, black fill, yellow outline on the contrast. So using those 3 colors in different combinations, you're able to see like different contrast. Not only that, when you do your poster today, think about doing different fonts as well. So this is definitely a different font than this. This is definitely a different font than this. Hint, cooltext.com is a great tool for this. So we won't be doing this drawing because this is a video again, so moving on. Now, this is a resume. A typical resume. In fact, atypical because you wouldn't see a picture on a resume, so we're going to pretend that's not there. But we're going to show where contrast can actually help in the business world in terms of like even the resume. So what we've done here is, you can see the original example is like, yeah, they have some headings and that sort of thing, but what we could really do is, going back to proximity, they're using lines right here to kind of approximate different types of information, but also contrast with the headings. Okay. We've seen this one before where we were talking about the Shakespeare papers. We talked about it with proximity, but we can even improve this version of it as well by using contrast again with color. So right here wasn't much going on. Pretty cool font. You've got the swan icon, but the second design really makes it kind of pop because we use the contrasting colors of the purple and the yellow. So dark background versus like more light font. Is direction one of the 4 elements of contrast? True or false? Say it. Anybody. Okay. It's true. Thank you. Okay, here's the summary. And I know this was a quick one, but now we are on to the paper version and the digital version of contrast. So, real quick summary. Contrast on a page draws our eyes to it. Our eyes like contrast. If you're putting 2 elements on the page that are not the same, such as 2 typefaces or 2 line widths, they cannot be similar. For contrast to be effective, the 2 elements must be very different. So, contrast poster. Draw it, then digitize it. So here are the directions again, and I will post these guidelines on Google Classroom so you have the details. So, regular white piece of paper again, okay? Horizontal. Okay, this is landscape, this is portrait. You want landscape. Okay, so it's like this. You know where the pencils are, the crayons, the markers, the rulers, everything else. I suggest starting in pencil so you have a nice outline design. Maybe use a black marker or a Sharpie to do your outlines to make it really contrast. Okay, and then use color to fill in. It's going to look really nice. So now, what are the elements of this? The word contrast should appear 3 times in 3 very different styles of lettering. Okay, so it says it right there. 3 different styles of lettering. So you're using different fonts. Make sure all 3 are different fonts. So when you're drawing it, maybe one is block lettering, one is cursive, one is kind of funky angled font or something like that. Again, I'm not looking for great artists. I'm just looking for you to have 3 very different styles of lettering. Okay, each time the letters in the word contrast should be at least 2 inches high. Use your ruler. You have rulers 2 inches high. Don't be the person who's drawing this super small so I can't see it from across the room. Now, you have to restrict your color selection to 3 very different contrasting colors plus the white of the paper. Okay? So using only 3 colors will unify your posters. So like the example that we saw, they used black, yellow, and red, I believe, and they used the white of the paper as well. Excuse me. So put a contrasting background rectangle behind the word contrast in at least one of those 3 iterations. So again, you're writing contrast 3 different times. In at least one of them, you have to have a contrasting background rectangle. It could be all 3, but at least one. And then use thick bubble letter forms. It's going to work better for that, not just a single line. So here's an example of this. If you're using something that you can do a fill with versus this, if you just do like an outline like this, it doesn't contrast very well. So you really want to go with a bubble letter form when you're drawing these out. Okay, so let's go back and show you their example. This was using 3 colors: yellow, red, black, and then using the white of the paper, red, black, yellow. So they used 3 colors and the white of the paper. You get to do the same. Here we go. Drawing first, then digitize.